Welcome to the 30-Minute Hour. It's the personal development podcast for entrepreneurs who are looking to level up and become unstoppable. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. Joining me as always, you know him as the super CEO, the business strategist extraordinaire, and all-around good guy, Ted Fells.
Happy Monday. Happy Monday. It's a holiday today as well, right?
Today is officially President's Day. Absolutely.
All right. Happy President's Day.
Absolutely. We're coming at everybody at a new time. Normally, we do the live episodes at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Today, we're doing it at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And then when we change up the time and we change up the day, it's going to be a great guest. But all our guests are great. But this is
right. Fix that.
Yeah, no.
Right.
All of our guests are great and add value, but when we change the time, you really need to lean in. This is kind of a unique episode. Our guest has a unique lifestyle that's possible for others who are watching us. So we'll get more into that as we go here. But please know, this is not your everyday podcast. No, we should have warned Cinnamon backstage, but we're a little different. We do things a little differently here on the 30-Minute Hour. But certainly, those of you watching us live, you can catch us on the 30-Minute Hour Facebook page, LinkedIn Facebook page, YouTube, all of those places. I see people logging on right now. Make sure you communicate in the comments section. Tell us hello. I see someone just commented from LinkedIn. We certainly appreciate you. Yeah, just make sure you're commenting with us. We can talk back to you. And certainly don't forget about the What Now movement. Today is Marketing Monday. So make sure you're going into the What Now movement Facebook group and join if you haven't already. And you have an opportunity to list your business, and we can like, share, follow, comment, whatever we need to do with the information that you've listed. All right. So, Ted.
Yes, Eric.
I've got something that's on my mind.
Please share, Eric.
All right. So today, I want to talk to you about how to create a location-independent lifestyle. I told you, this is a different episode from what we normally present to you. So the topic is how do you create a location-independent lifestyle and really have that freedom that you've been seeking. And I just want you to imagine for a moment that you want to learn Portuguese, right?
I was just thinking about that a couple weeks ago. Yeah, so this is timely.
Perfect timing. So you have several options, Tim, right? If you want to learn Portuguese, you can always take an online class. You could go get like Rosetta Stone or one of those types of programs and try to learn Portuguese. Or you could move to Portugal for like 6 months or longer.
I'm not trying to do that, Eric. I'm not trying to do that.
But let's think about this. Like which of those options do you think would allow you to learn Portuguese and become more fluent or the most fluent in Portuguese?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure going out there because you'd be forced to learn it there.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you immerse yourself in Portugal and learn the Portuguese, you're going to walk away speaking some serious Portuguese. And here's why. Here's why I'm bringing this up. This is really something we need you to lean into because it really has everything to do with what your approach should be to business. If you're looking to have this location-independent lifestyle, this is the part of the program, Cinnamon, where we want people to pull over to the side of the road. A lot of people, when they're driving, they're listening to us We need their undivided attention. This is the time to pull over to the side of the road. I know you're on your Peloton, you're listening to us. This is where you just need to press pause. Ted, is there anything else the people need to do?
That's where you got to put the ham sandwich down, Cinnamon. I don't care how good that sandwich is. This is the part where you have to put that sandwich in and just put it down and focus on what we're about to say.
That's right. Put the ham sandwich down. So again, if you really want to be fluent in Portuguese, the most effective way to do that is just immerse yourself, go to Portugal, and just figure it out. Here's why that's the most effective strategy or technique, because when failure isn't an option, success becomes more achievable. Yeah, think about that, right? So if you go over to the right part of Portugal and no one speaks English, you have to figure it out. You want to eat, you want to network, you want to get around, you need to figure it out. You're going to find a way, you're going to come back fluent in Portugal, as opposed to if you just take an online course. And how this applies is there's a lot of people that I work with and talk to, we work with and talk to. Maybe you got a government position, it's comfortable, you're GS 75, you're doing pretty well. But the real thing you want to do is you want to have this location independent lifestyle, right? Yeah. So it's like, okay, I have this plan B business. I mean, I think you have to treat your business like it's plan A. You literally have to immerse yourself. You really have to go all in. You almost have to tell yourself that's your only option. And you have to figure it out. You're more likely to figure it out if that's your only option. Now, Ted, you always talk about the analogy of being in a locked room and having to get out.
Oh, yeah. You're locked in a room. You have to get out. If the door's not working, you got to go through the window, through the ceiling, dig a trench, whatever it is, you got to figure it out. Yeah, so you got to be all in.
Absolutely. I mean, just one of the things I've observed is freedom isn't free. I mean, you really have to take some aggressive actions. You have to go all in. If you want to take the island, you got to burn the boats, like they say. You need to go all in as if failure isn't an option, like you were in a foreign country. And I bring up Portuguese and Portugal for a reason, right? Because our guest today, she left it all. She left the United States and she moved to Lisbon, Portugal. Right? If creating a location independent lifestyle were a person, it would be our guest today.
That's right.
Right? I mean, she's doing it, right? She's passionate about helping ambitious entrepreneurs and businesses grow and scale their business with technology and digital marketing strategies. She helps entrepreneurs create a location independent lifestyle and the freedom to do what they enjoy by leveraging technology to showcase their brilliance for profit. And get this, Ted, she believes that talent doesn't have borders. You don't have to feel stuck in your current city or country. With technology, you can create the life you enjoy anywhere in the world. So please join me in welcoming to the 30-Minute Hour podcast, Cinnamon McCann.
Hey, thanks for having me, gentlemen. I appreciate it. Good to be here.
Welcome. It's truly an honor to have you on the show, and your story is incredible. How you just 1 minute you're living in DC, and next thing you know, you're in Lisbon. So I really want to unpack. I'm sure there's probably a little bit more to it than that.
It was a.
I just woke up one day, but I'm going to Lisbon.
I don't advise that, people. If you're listening, do not just wake up and go move to a country.
You on vacation? No, I'm just going.
I'm going. All right. So I want to give everybody some context and perspective. So let's start back to when you were in college, right? So at that time, like what did you think you were going to be when you were coming up?
Sadly, college was a blur. I mean, it wasn't because I partied a lot. It was, I went to DC public schools, so I probably spent time just trying to pass and make it out of college is basically what it was. I don't think I put too much thought into what I wanted to do. It was just surviving to graduate within 4 years.
Interesting. So if you could go back to that time, with the clarity and knowledge that you have now, like what advice would you give to your younger self?
I think I would have wanted to take more advantage of the international programs that they have in college. I tell a lot of people who have kids that are in college now or kids who are in college to just take advantage of it, because when you become an adult and you have adult bills, your ability to kind of leave and go out of a country for a month is a challenge. And I did go to Brazil and study for a month when I was in college. But there's so many opportunities in the university to leave the country that I wish I would have taken advantage of that a little bit more. So I guess I would offer that advice.
No, that's good. No, I think it's an opportunity that you don't think about to broaden your perspectives. And I was like you. I'm thinking I would look at something like that and think, oh well, yeah, when am I going to use that? But
Right.
yeah, if you really, that's an opportunity, right? You just never
Yeah.
know where that could how that could pay off. So what's the backstory? Like, how do you go from you're in DC, you're doing business, to now you've decided you're going to just relocate and have this location independent lifestyle? But
I
what are
don't
those
I don't
experiences?
Right. I don't think it was just one thing. And I advise this for people that it shouldn't be just one thing that gets you to leave your home country. Hopefully it's a bunch of things. I think there was a lot of people who I was close to, they were passing away for a variety of reasons. I know Ted and I share a business colleague that passed away prematurely, and she was one of my at least healthiest friends. She barely eat meat. She did yoga every day. She was, and one moment, she said she was diagnosed with cancer. We were like, listen, if anyone can beat cancer, you can. We fine. And a year later, she was gone. So between that and so many other people that I know who just left prematurely, it really had me, thinking about life differently. And I had worked hard. I did the DC grind for forever. And in 2008, 2009, I lost everything and had to start all over again. And so when I was working so hard, I was like, okay, so I worked so hard. I made great money, but I didn't have a life. And then I'm seeing people who thought they had so much more life to live. And I'm like, so what did I do it for? Like, why was I working so hard to make all this money to do what? And so I decided that I wanted my life to be, I wanted to be able to look back at it. If someone told me I had 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years to live, that I could say, I rocked those last 2 years out. Like I rocked this life out. And at the life I currently had, I couldn't say that. And so I proactively tried to figure out what that looked like. And so that meant traveling initially. So I left the country for every month for like 3 years straight. And it was from that experience of how I'm treated differently in other countries, how the food is real in other countries, how just so much, nuances. I was like, what am I doing here initially? And I remember looking at my phone and the weather app, and I was in DC and it said it was like 7 degrees. And I was like, what am I doing here? And then it was just so
You don't
much.
like 7? You don't like 7 degrees?
No. And then it was like so much racial tension that was happening. I remember I would cry. I was like for like a month straight. I was waking up crying, whether I'm looking at social media, as somebody else's life was taken. I am crying for people I have never met before. And it was, and I think at the time, maybe a woman who was like a grandmother to me, she had passed away. And I was turning 40, and I was like, YOLO, no, I'm out of here. I'm out. Let me just go. If I don't like it, I'll move back. Like, what's the big deal? And then I left about 3 years ago, and there's no way in the world I would ever move back to the United States of America.
Wow.
Yeah, I could say that now. I couldn't say that before, but it's
Wow.
yeah.
So
I visit.
Now I'm curious. So how did you land on digital marketing as your specific area of focus in business?
So before I had done training, I had an investment company, I had real estate, I did all of that. And so when I lost everything, I had to figure out some new skills. And I knew before the way that I was working, I had to be local. Like I had to be local. I had to deal with things. I had to meet people. I had to do that type of thing. So initially I was like, okay, so what can I do that can allow me to be location independent? And no matter whatever economy we're in, if you can help a business get clients, you can always have a job. period. If you can, and it doesn't matter what if we're in a recession or not, if you can help a company get some business, you got a job.
Yeah.
So I started to study digital marketing to understand, okay, so how can I use this form of technology to get more people business? And so I studied that. And it wasn't like it was immediately lost everything and then jumped into digital marketing. There was years of like depression and not knowing what the next step was. So I don't want anyone who's hearing this to think that, oh, like, yeah, well, I'll just lose everything. You know what I can do? Digital marketing. Like, you know, it didn't come that way. So there were a lot of quiet crying nights where I couldn't figure out how to navigate through this space. And I say that to say that sometimes you may be going through something and you feel like all these answers should be coming to you. And sometimes you just have to be quiet and just sit in that space, and you know it'll come. But it is not immediate as one may believe.
What other? I'm going to circle back to that. So you at this point, you lost everything with the other businesses. So I mean, what other? We have people that are watching us right now, entrepreneurs that might be in a similar situation or close to it. So what are some lessons that you learned that you think could help our followers that might be in the same situation?
You have to be really clear who your audience is and what your message is as to how you can help them. I think some people aren't really understanding that you're asking someone to give their hard-earned money to you, and you just say what you do and people are supposed to care. And that's not really how that works. You know, you'll have people say, oh, I'm a coach, or I do this, I do that. But how are you actually going to help the person in which you seek to help? So in doing that in some form of analytics is helpful. So you're saying if I can raise your customer base by at least 20%, then that's something someone can grasp. Like, oh, I can use, 20% more customers. Okay, cool. So if you got to understand where your ideal client's current state is and what they want their future state to be, and how you say that in your elevator pitch or your marketing message or what have you. It is not enough just to say a job title. And I know if you're coming from corporate America, we live on our job titles. But if you are working independently, a job title is not enough, because sometimes because you're so brilliant in your skill, a layperson would not know what that title even does. Like, when would I call someone like that? Like, people say, oh, I'm a project manager, but project manager can mean 50,000 different industries. That's not helpful to the person you can potentially communicate with. What do you do? Do you help them organize what? And what happens after that? So focus on the results that you provide in your message and how you communicate to your ideal audience.
And so you felt like after your setback, that's really that's one of the things you learned, that, I need to really clarify what I do so it's clear.
No, didn't learn that till later. I learned that digital marketing was probably the space I needed to go in. And then, so there's the education, and then of course there's practice. And so then you have to realize, okay, so let's say you want to make sure that you are working with a client that can actually afford to pay you. So then you may narrow it down, like, okay, so what are the industries that could afford to pay me? And maybe you will say, okay, lawyers, dentists, whatever. And then still you got to break down that niche. Okay. So I think initially I was doing dentists and that didn't work out. So I was like, okay, maybe cosmetic dentists. Okay, let's go more specific. Let's do dentists that specifically do veneers. Because when you think about being search engine optimized, you have to go super granular in your keywords. To go general means you need to either be paying for ads, or if you're not paying for ads, you have to get that specific, because your audience has to find you on this global, massive thing. And if you don't have the words associated with your name and what you do and how you do it, it's going to be impossible for people to find you. So if you're coming from corporate America, everything is super general. You got to go super specific when you're trying to be an entrepreneur. And I feel like that is what I end up learning in the application of digital marketing when I was trying to get my business off the ground.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. When I was starting out as a speaker, I had my little business card, and my title was, I'm a motivational speaker. And so one of my mentors pulled me to the side. I mean, what is this? It doesn't tell me anything. You and everybody in the room is a motivational speaker. What is it that separates you? So I think that's a valuable lesson And I think that's huge because if you can't separate yourself, I mean, it's just going to be a struggle in business.
So Cinnamon, knowing you and I've known you for some time, I don't want to say, how long I've known you, because
It's
I don't
been
want,
decades. You
yeah,
can say it.
I
It's
don't want you
okay.
to think that you're anywhere near my age, but knowing that you've had so many different types of business ventures and that you've been an author and all these different things along the way, like, can you talk a little bit about how all those past business initiatives, how they kind of pull into what you do today for your customers?
Oh, I think that's a that's a challenging question. I think because if I have an idea, I execute.
Mm-hmm.
You get a lot. Everything's a learning curve. You're not going to be great at anything you start for the first time. There is no such thing as perfectionism, especially on something you've never done before. So I
Mm-hmm.
think the benefit of that is I can, as it relates to publishing and digital marketing, I already know how to do the various aspects of publishing and marketing because I had to do it for myself. So I do offer a different set of a more diverse arsenal of things people can do in order to market themselves. But I think ultimately, for anyone who's listening, the goal is that you got to keep trying a bunch of things. And I know that may feel counterintuitive, but if you've been stuck in this space or in this position for the past 20 years and you've been doing the same thing for the past 20 years, you're going to have to learn some new skills. That's just what this is. And learning new skills are going to make you more valuable in every aspect of your life. And so being open to doing that is just the challenge you need to get over, because we get so comfortable in this life that we have and that we know what it looks like and we know how it feels, that we're missing out on so many other experiences. I mean, even as it relates to me leaving the country, there was so many things I did not know until I left. And I was like, man, America sold us a dream. I ain't even, you know what I mean? And if I wouldn't have left, I wouldn't have known that. But if I wouldn't have done this, I wouldn't have known that, so everything is interconnected. So I just encourage everybody, just do something that terrifies you and
Yeah, the
move
reason
on from there.
I asked that question, I've known Cinnamon she started off being had a training company, and then I known you as doing some financial advising, then an author, and then it's like, all right, I'm leaving the country. And
Yeah.
and for me, and knowing you, it's like whatever you set your mind. Okay, I'm gonna write a book. Okay, you did it. Okay, I'm gonna start this. I'm gonna get it. Okay, I'm gonna leave the country. Like once you said it, I was like, she about to leave the country. She said she don't leave the country. I don't know why she's leaving the country, but and why she's going where she's Lisbon. That's where you're going. Well, she's going, and once you set your mind to it, it's kind of like, okay, I'm gonna start this process to achieving whatever that is. I think that's, it's a lot of people just don't have that, right? Write a book, like, okay, we talk about it, right? Start a company, we talk about it. Just go into Lisbon, like we'll talk about it, but you activate those things, you put those things into action, and I think that's a really key thing for our listeners to understand is, you got to move, you got to make some action, you got to figure it out, and that's what you do.
I think also, thank you, Ted. I think also listeners need to understand you have to be cool with taking action even though you're terrified. I think everyone always assumed that, oh, you're so brave. And people, even when I moved, they were like, you're so brave. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, I don't save babies out of burning buildings. Like, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't call myself brave at all.
Yeah,
I am terrified every time I do something. And I think people assume that I wasn't. I am absolutely terrified. I just do it anyway. That is literally the only difference. I do it despite. And so I think just because of my, dysfunctional family, I learned a lot of survival skills. So it causes me to kind of move. The dysfunction as a child has created a neurotic adult, but it ended up serving me in the positive side. But understand, you need to just move despite fear. Walk in it, hold its hand, become its best friend if you want your life to be different. And that's whether you want to stay in the country, start a business, whatever, you need to be okay with walking in the fear, period.
So I'm just, this whole, I know I'm standing this, and maybe, and as long as I've known you, I don't think I've asked you any of these questions, but like your first day in Lisbon, when you you moved to Lisbon, like what was that like when you woke up and you like looked around? You're like I really did this. Like, what was that like?
I don't think it actually hit me to some weeks later, but when it did hit me, I lost my first month. I think I cried every single night. I would call my best friend. I had a straight breakdown in the Sheraton Hotel in Sardinia because I went to American Hotel because I knew they were going to speak English. And I called my best friend and I'm like, I'm having lunch at a hotel because I just need to hear English. I don't know what I'm doing. And I was having an absolute meltdown. And I was cooking one day, and I usually, sip on a little wine when I'm cooking. And I cut my finger. I'm like, I don't even know who to call, and how do I get like? It was an absolute train wreck for like the first.
I know your friend. She probably didn't want to say this, but I told you not to go out there.
Well, she's not that type. She would never tell me not to, but everyone told me it was going to be okay. My friends are actually super supportive, but I know in their mind they wanted to say, "Babe, just come home." I know they wanted to say that, but none of them ever did that.
Come on back home, and maybe you just go to New York, right? You have to go out the country, right? How about Charlotte? Like, some people relocate to Atlanta. Like, why do you have to go from Washington to Lisbon?
Yeah.
Louisiana. How about Louisiana? You got to think
right,
for
right.
Louisiana.
Yeah. Yeah. I think after that, and it's an important point that after you get past the fear and the feeling of it being uncomfortable, there's a beautiful life on the other side for whatever it is you want to do. And that's what you have to remember. It did not feel good. And doing something different does not feel good. It feels icky. Okay. And you got to get over that feeling and continue to move forward, because the other side is something beautiful. You don't just change your whole life or change so many aspects of you and it be the same. Like, even when you're going through therapy, it sucks. Like, it doesn't feel good.
Right.
And then on the other side, you have gained a different perspective. You learn how to handle things differently. It's beautiful on the other side. So you just really have to be, you have to go part. You can't have this great life and you just go and give up every time it feel funky. Like, come on, don't do that. Don't do that.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, it's a beautiful life on the other side of your comfort zone. When you get past that whole comfort zone thing and you push and you take risks, it's beautiful on the other side.
And you also think about in this situation, like in business, right? And you're up against the wall and trying to get your business off the ground or to get clients or like whatever you face. Oh, it's a pandemic. I can't go to networking events. I can't get out, shake hands, meet people. And then you got Cinnamon who says, I'm just gonna go into another country, not know the language, and be successful in my business. Like, it shows that there is a way to do it, right? Again, you're in this room and you got to get out. Like, so when you went out there to Lisbon, did you already have your strategy in mind of how I'm going to make money when I get out there in this place, or did it?
No, I already had clients when I left, and then I decided to document my process of getting a visa, moving, whatever, and I had created that brand, excuse me, under the Driven Spice brand. And so because I've branded individuals before, I knew what to do for me, and I am an introvert, so creating a personal brand in opposed to a corporate brand, I would have done that backward. I would have done the corporate brand I would have done it in reverse. I would have done the corporate brand instead of the personal brand. Anyway, it's done, so I got to eat that. But do I remember your question? What was your question?
No, that's a good answer. Nobody knows that you kind of went with it. It sounded good.
So I say all that to say that certain things were happening, which is which I would advise entrepreneurs to take in their business. So people were asking me questions. I didn't feel fit to answer it. And so I said, okay, well, let me find the people who can answer your questions and bring them all together. So for example, some people wanted to move out the country and they were like, well, I don't necessarily want to move to Portugal. How is it in Africa? I'm like, I don't live in Africa. Why you feel like I would know that? But all right, let me find somebody who live there. So then they're like, oh, well, what about Italy? And I'm like, y'all know I don't live there, right? So I'm like, okay.
You know everything about everything now, right?
Right. I said, Ben, how about this? How about I create a virtual event that has a bunch of different expats that moved out of the country so they could share their experience. And so pretty much early on, that's when I created the virtual Moving Abroad Summit. And I invited about 12 different people who moved out of the country, and they shared their experiences. Some people went to college, outside of the country. So it was just a diverse experience of people who could just listen and kind of figure out what they wanted to do. And so I did that. Every product I created was because my audience said so. And so this is, if anything, entrepreneurs, you got to communicate with your audience. You have to communicate with your audience. You set up your email marketing software so that you can talk to them and find out what their issues are, where they're stuck. And this is if you're talking about B2B or B2C. Communicate with your customers, because a lot of times you can create a product, you think that your customers need this, and if you send them and call them and say, listen, what's got you up at night right now, and they're like, well, this and that. And if you get very industry specific, which is why I keep talking about that, if it's very industry specific, most of them are going to have the same problems. So then you can learn from that what your product needs to be from what they told you. And they're more likely to buy it because you're fixing the problem they just told you that you had. So what a lot of people would do is say they think they have this product or this book and they feel like everybody wants to read it. No, like no one knows who you are. You didn't build your audience, any of those things. So just because you come up with product doesn't mean people want to buy it. So you need to come up with your audience first, and you need to communicate with your audience first, and then develop product from that. That's the easiest way to do it, because that can ensure that you will make money faster than you out here spending 6 months trying to write a book that didn't nobody buy.
Now that's great advice as far as focusing on the audience for your offering first. And so I'm gonna play devil's advocate. I've got somebody that's watching us right now. They're an entrepreneur. They're saying, but Cinnamon, if I just focus on a niche and I specialize, aren't I missing out on other business opportunities that I could be getting?
I get it. So you are not a large business yet, and I want you to think about your businesses that are successful. Google did not start off all over the world. It started off on one college campus. They did search for one college campus. Facebook started on one college campus. When you look at Geico was giving insurance to military. They didn't do it to everybody. So as much as you look at these large companies and you see them having this large reach, it didn't start like that. Bill Gates was in garages. Like, come on, y'all. Like, so don't forget that it has to start off small. Everybody started off small. Nobody started off and just gave birth to this large behemoth of a company. That's not how life works. So remember, you can't compare your current state is how you're looking at large companies. That's not a fair comparison by any stretch of the imagination. So understand, everyone started off with a niche. Every company started off with a niche. If you don't, you setting yourself up for failure immediately. So niche it down. Every other company did it. You not better than them. You ain't better than Facebook, Google, and come on.
Niche it down, Eric. That's tweetable. Niche it down.
Like I think about somebody like Jay-Z, right? Jay-Z started out rapping. That was his thing, right? He didn't start out when he first came out. He wasn't rapping this. Once he really got traction with his niche, that's when he started to expand. But no, I think that's the big take. And I only wish I had met Cinnamon years earlier. It probably would have saved me a lot of pain and frustration, because I just found that whole idea of building your niche and really getting specific to be critical to succeeding in business.
So Cinnamon, when was that aha moment for you? Because I know you've had, again, various businesses and, ventures. So when was that day you was like,
I think now I can see that everything I've done led to this. You know what I mean? Like when you just asked, from writing to finance, like training, like I still do training online now. I just do it talking about, whether it's investing or whether it's moving abroad or whether it's growing your business. So I still do that. And then being able to publish something, whether it's a virtual summit or a book, or like I could do that in my sleep. And so as much as I complained and, shared my frustration with God, I know it's like, can you just stop? Like, like I know I was that hard-headed child that was probably just always complaining, and God was like, girl, I got this if you just relax. You know what I mean? You went through this for a reason, and you just need to trust me. And I was, so it's when I move and just having my life now, so many times like, all right, Jesus, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, God. Like, I'm sorry. Did I doubted you and everything like that? So
funny because I thought, when I asked that question, it was really kind of like a alley-oop, like a setup question for you to like, okay, you need to kill us, because I see how they all pieces came together, right? The marketing, the writing, the financial side, like all of that, and then now you got all these tools, experiencing all of this, and now like, okay, I'm over here in Lisbon, in this spot, like by myself, not speaking the language, but I'm gonna be successful because I got all these tools. As I got a computer and I got some access to the internet, I don't have to be.
I didn't see that at the time. I didn't see that at the time, and that's important for people to see. Sometimes the pieces of the puzzle don't come together, and you can't see the picture. But just listen, trust the process, keep riding it out. And because I didn't see that. It wasn't until now that I'm sitting in the life I want. And I'm like, dang.
That's great.
All right, Jesus, I'm sorry.
Esther Ivory, she just put out there, she says, niche it down. I like that. She liked that.
Niche
So
it
Esther
down.
Ivory's a fan of niching it down. We're going to put that on some t-shirts there.
Niche it down. Exactly.
Niche it down.
Exactly. So what other steps can entrepreneurs take to grow their business using digital marketing strategies?
The most important thing is creating content. You have to create content that specifically lets your user know either the service you can provide to them or why it's important. So focus your content on that. I think, everyone just feels like content is king, but it's a certain type of content. Like one, again, you have to identify who your audience is and what are the questions, what keeps your audience up at night? How can you help them? You create content that focuses around that. And the more there's a direct correlation between how much content you have out there and how much money you make, period, particularly online. Complete correlation. So understand that content is going to be your 24-hour, 7 days a week salesperson. It doesn't get sick. It doesn't fall off. You put it out there, it'll still work for you, and it'll continue to work for you. If you don't put it out there, is the issue. So your content drives people to you. When you are on these various social platforms, your LinkedIn, your YouTubes, or whatever, these are just distribution channels, okay? And they are owned by other people. You have to bring people back to something that you own, which in essence can be your website, but I'm going to go stronger to say your email list, your CRM, your content relationship management software. The reason why that's important is because even if you have sent people to your website, 9 times 10, they ain't coming back. Like how many websites you done been to and you ain't come back to? So unless you aren't, if you are advanced enough to know how to retarget them to come back, that's a different story. But if you're not, your email marketing software is going to be the most important tool that you have in your business, because this puts you directly into their inbox. Every time I create a product, I reach out to my people like, all right, where y'all stuck? And I'm like, well, I'm having a problem understanding where I get to start. All right, bet, got it for you next week. You can't do that on your website. There's no direct communication with people. You can only do that in email. So your email marketing software is going to be one of the most important things. And so I want you to think about content like this. Like back in the day when people used to listen to the radio, artists would come on as many radio stations as they could. Their content was their music. Their content was their album. And they wanted to be on as many distribution channels as possible. Okay. So that is what you're doing. You're putting your content on these various distribution channels. I don't recommend doing all of them at once. It's not necessary. Pick one that is search-based engine optimized. Now, I say that to say YouTube is the largest or second largest search engine. Google is the first. They're rarely, when you Google something and people when they have a problem, they Google it. Okay. And when they come up with a search, it does not come up with an Instagram post. It does not come up with a TikTok. It does not come with LinkedIn. It does not come from a podcast. It comes from either a blog in which Google could read the words, or it's coming from YouTube, period. Google owns YouTube. If you had a video and it wasn't on YouTube, they can't read what you said. YouTube will automatically transcribe it. It's search engine based. So if you want to grow your market, you need to grow a market on a search engine based type form of marketing. Now, I know people will say, well, a lot of people have Instagram products. A lot of people have TikTok. TikTok is relatively new. When a new digital marketing technology come out, the algorithm is for free for all because they just want to get people to the platform. Every company alters that once they get the people and they decide how they're going to monetize. Companies that make the most money are basically distribution channels. Facebook is nothing but a distribution channel. It doesn't make anything. YouTube is a distribution channel. People come and they put content on it. LinkedIn, people come and put content on it. They're not making the content. They created the tool for people to come and put the content on it because that is how much content is worth. Content allows people, the real worth is them data mining your information. But that comes from content. The more you keep people on a platform, the more they can read a variety of things about you, where you're located, what IP address you're at, all the data mining part that's actually where the real money is. The fish is content. So yeah.
So the best thing they could do is get out there and just create content.
But specific content to their audience. If you just out here creating podcasts or out here creating TikToks and it doesn't relate to your audience, you were just creating fluffy content that's not going to produce money. So if you're trying to close sales, you need to focus on your audience and create content for your audience.
Great advice. Great advice. So what about this location independent lifestyle? You know, people are watching this Cinnamon, they're like, okay, yeah, I want to do that. I just want to pick up and I want to move and just go somewhere else. What are some more tips that you have for people that are looking?
One of the tips is you need to travel first. Don't just feel like you're going to leave America and you ain't never been out the country. That is not what anyone should do. I would say start off because you don't even know the amenities of America that you may really, really like. And you feel like you may need that. Moving out of the country is not for everyone. Okay. So figure out what your non-negotiables are, how you feel comfortable, and then the trauma that America has gave you. Because if you leave America, I don't think anyone would be surprised that Americans don't have the most, the greatest report card of other countries and how they feel about Americans. I don't think that's a shock, right? That's not a shock. And there's a reason for that. Because sometimes Americans will tend to go to another country and try to make it America, or bring some of the America ideologies that aren't necessarily positive to other parts of the country. And so we're looked at as being arrogant or brash or all of these various things. And so you have to humble yourself just the same way if you were just to go as a guest at someone's parents' house. Like you're not up there like, oh, y'all should do this. And you need, you have to come that way when you were going to other people's countries. If you're the person that you need to have resort life and you go out of the country, then you aren't leaving the country. Like you haven't seen anything, so just be humble and just observe and just act the way you would act if you were in someone's home with their parents. Just do that first and then try different experiences in different countries so that you can find out what matters to you if you were to leave the US.
So Esther is really into this discussion, and she said, sorry, I missed the beginning. How long has Cinnamon been in Lisbon, and how did she select Portugal?
Good question. So I moved to Portugal about 3 years ago. I picked Lisbon because I picked Portugal specifically because I wanted to move to Europe. I wanted to move to Europe specifically because, to me, the way what I eat is super important to me. It always has been. So I know Europe doesn't allow the things that America allows in the food. I already knew that before moving out the country was even on the radar. So Europe was attractive to me for that reason, that the healthcare is pretty much free and that they really care about what they feed people. And so I was like, all right, let me look at Europe. Now, I didn't want to move to a country that was cold because there's parts of Europe that are freezing. And so I didn't want that. And so I looked at countries that were warm, that had a relatively decent cost of living. And that's, when I did the research initially, Portugal kind of came up in those searches.
So she also asked, what's the next place for you if you were to leave, I guess, Lisbon? What's the next place you'd consider out there? I know you said you'd never come back.
I'm not considering another place right now. Lisbon, Portugal. First off, I'm working on residency. I'm working on citizenship. I know for me to have the retirement that I want, I need to be a European citizen. And so I'm committed to getting my citizenship in Portugal. I may move to another part of Europe. I know the Scandinavian countries take real good care of their citizens. So I don't know, maybe when I get older, I might move there. But becoming a European citizen is what gives me the flexibility of saying I can move anywhere in Europe and not have to worry about, immigration and all of that, because I'm an immigrant. I'm a U.S. immigrant in Portugal, and there's a variety of things I have to do to stay right with the federal government. And so when you become a citizen, you don't have to do those things anymore. And so I will definitely be in Portugal at least until my citizenship is completed.
Wow.
Yeah, great questions from Esther. Jeez.
Yeah, good questions, guys.
Esther trying to go somewhere. Where you trying to go? You asking where you going? You must got a plan. You going somewhere?
Esther, like, I have a friend.
Right, I'm asking for a friend. Right. Right. Oh, great questions.
Oh no, those are awesome questions. So what's next on the business horizon for you? What else do you have coming up?
So because I'm an introvert, pandemic has been great for me because I've just been creating all these type of virtual events and bringing everybody together. And it's been cool because people can live in whatever country and still connect with dynamic people in a whole nother country. And so I'm working on a bunch of, virtual projects coming up with SaaS founders, minority SaaS founders, and just bringing people together across the world to combine brilliance and, kind of do those types of things. So that's what I'm working on for the upcoming year.
That's great.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. So we're now at the final segment of our show. We call it Write This Down.
Okay.
Right? This is where we each go around and leave that closing thought for entrepreneurs to write down so they can level up. So Cinnamon, you are our guest of honor. So we'll start with you. What's the closing thought you want people to remember about this episode that they should write down?
That your brilliance doesn't have borders. If you want a location independent life, there are people in Europe that would love your skill set. There are people in, Brazil that would love your skill set. Your brilliance doesn't have to stay, even if you want to stay in America. You can have a global business. And the key is that people have to know you do what you do. So understand, I know if you're with a corporation and you have this title and no one lets, that title is really for that business owns that title, not you. You need to come out and create your own brand and content around what you do so that when people are searching your name or whatever, that you come out as the expert in that. And that is what creates leverage. When you don't create your own personal corporate or personal brand, you have to go out and look for jobs. When you create your own personal corporate brand, jobs come to you. People come to you. They'll say, I saw that person. I want to work with them. How much does it cost? If you don't do that, you're stuck trying to chase the price that people said that they want to pay. But when you are out there, people's like, I want to work with her, how much it costs. And if they can't afford you at the time, they'll save. So write that down.
Write that down. Okay, look, that's why we had this segment. Write that down. Hopefully you had your pen out and you wrote down what you just said, because that's critical. She dropped some serious information on us. Ted?
Man, I ain't trying to follow Cinnamon. I'm not trying to follow Cinnamon. My write this down is real quick. I mean, just try something different. Just try. Don't be afraid to try something different. And if that you don't like that, try something different again. Right? Like, again, I know Cinnamon, right? So when I'm listening to this I'm just like, man, I ain't gotten to a point that whenever I talk to her, I was kind of like, okay, what you doing now? Like what you do? Well, no, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm just what I'm gonna do. And next thing you know, it was done. And so yeah, try something different until you get to whatever that success or happiness is. Don't be afraid to try something different, and don't look at it as a failure that you did try something different, right? So just yeah. So I just again I kind of I've always admired Cinnamon for just being able to just kind of just always doing something. Like I never saw her just being a person just working for someone. She was always going to try something different till she got what she wanted. She's always been on the move. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Try something different. So I know your pen ran out of ink. You went and got another pen. So I'm going to recap, which you have to write down. First, we said that brilliance doesn't have borders. You got to remember that. The next thing you want to write down is that try something different. Like, don't just keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result, getting frustrated, wondering why things don't change. Sometimes you have to try something different. So my write this down piece is just, you have to ask yourself this question: what else is possible? Right? And I just think about Cinnamon's story, and she goes to Lisbon, and at first she's crying, and she's like, I don't know why am I here, what I'm going to do, I have to get through this.
I could only imagine it. I could only.
Look at her now.
Yeah.
She figured it out, right? She figured it out. And I just think, so when you face a challenge and you overcome it and you get on the other side to that beautiful place you talked about earlier, you have to ask yourself, like, what else is possible? I overcame this. What else can I overcome? And what else is possible? And now you can be courageous because you got on the other side of that thing that you thought was a big obstacle. So just ask yourself that question: what else is possible? There's a reason that I thought it was a great point earlier that everything happens for a reason, right? You think you're just out there. You think these random events are just occurring, but no, those dots are connecting, and then you end up where you're supposed to be. So just keep the faith. Ask yourself, what else is possible? Ted, you think the people were writing that down?
I think so. At least that's the Ivory. I mean, she just said here. She said this discussion has. She said this has vibrated her spirit.
Oh, I love that.
Awesome.
You could definitely see herself living outside the USA.
No, that's awesome. Well, we certainly want to thank Cinnamon McCann for everything that she shared and how she's inspired our audience. And how can people best connect with you?
You can follow me on Instagram at Driven Spice. I'm on YouTube at Driven Spice. Yeah, those are my places.
Okay, good stuff. All right, and for everybody watching, this is definitely one. We always say don't forget to share the show. You got to share the show.
You got to share the show. Share the show. This right here has been some good information.
I mean, I'm telling you, this can save you years of wasted time on ventures. Thousands and thousands of wasted dollars.
Yeah.
And I'm not telling you what I heard. I'm telling you what I know.
Yeah.
I've made most of the mistakes that Cinnamon is pointing out. That's how I know.
And Eric, we might need to go to Lisbon and just start eating out there because Cinnamon looking like she's 12.
Really?
I'm like, yeah, I let her know you 20-something years. You looking like you're 12.
When I FaceTime my friends, they're like, your skin looks so great. I said, it's got to be here because no one ever said that to me in America.
looking 12. I'm like, what in the world?
But now, thanks again, Cinnamon McCann, for everything you shared. And for everybody else, don't forget to share the show. Remember, you can catch this on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all of those other places that you consume podcast content. We thank you for listening to us and watching us. And until next time, have a great one.